But I learned about this program when a subcontractor knocked on my mom's door, and they said that they're with FPL, Storm Surge Protection Program. And I was just like, huh, I don't see any FPL logo. And I didn't know if it was true or not, but I reached out to our representative, and she was like, yes, this is a program. Let me tell you about it. And so when I learned about it, I thought about, okay, well, how many residents don't know about this program? Because they were talking about underlining my mom's area on 129th Street. And I was just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Who is this, right? So, and that's why I reached out to FPL, and I wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to present this program so that all residents can know about it. And that's why we're live streaming it on Nomi TV, so we'll have access to it so that residents who couldn't attend today will also be able to have access to the presentation. And they also provide us copies. So for any folks who need copies of the presentations, they're in the back as well. And from now, I'll hand it over to Greg from the team at FPL.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Greg Jones. I am a lead project manager with the Storm Secure Underground program. With me today, I have several of my teammates. I have Mr. Javier Prado. He's also a lead project manager. I have Sabrina Colon. She is a project coordinator. I have Mr. Arturo Perez. He is our data outreach lead. I have our outreach manager for date. For the state, I apologize. That is Ms. Eileen Tamayo. And then I have Ms. Ada Scrilla, and she is our external affairs manager. So what I'm going to do is just kind of take a few minutes to go through a brief presentation, sort of an overview of what our program has done, and then what it is doing, where we've been, and where we're going. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity for some questions. There we go. So just from a historical perspective, FPL, we serve about half the population of Florida, roughly a little more than 5.8 million customer accounts, and we serve folks all the way from Miami up to Pensacola. What you see here, these are examples of how devastating vegetation can be. Vegetation is the leading cause of outages for overhead lines, particularly in severe weather situations like Hurricane Irma in 2017. And you can see multiple counties across the entire state are affected by the trees that get into our power lines and cause the outages. The Storm Secure Underground program, it focuses on neighborhood power lines, which we tend to call our laterals. And those are the ones that are closest to the customer homes. So typically, you'll find these are in the rear of the properties. Every once in a while, you'll see some that are in the front, but these are the lines that actually serve directly to the homes, your homes, and ours. So what is the benefit of, of underground power lines? Undergrounding the power lines, it benefits customers in both good and bad weather. We typically have 50% better performance in day-to-day operations. It also speeds up our restoration efforts when there is an outage, and it also reduces the interruptions that you all experience due to vegetation. So a lot of questions come about, how do we get selected? We use data-driven criteria approved by the Florida Public Service Commission to select and rank projects. Some of the criteria is the power line performance during previous named storms. So how well did it hold up? How many outages might you have seen? How long those outages were? How many of those outages on those power lines were due to vegetation? And then, of course, there's still the performance of the power lines during the day-to-day operations. So just like today, you have a brief storm, you've seen the weather that comes in. How well did those lines perform, when they were underground versus those that are overhead? So this gives you a brief overview of how our projects are set up, right? Usually completed in a 2-year term. Sometimes it goes a little longer depending on what we face, but it starts off with conceptual design. From there, we have our customer outreach, where that's when our folks reach out to you all, the homeowners, to see, hey, are you interested? This is what we're doing, this is why, and we start asking you if you're interested in the participation with the program. Then from there, we get into our final design, our permitting, and then our actual construction. So we typically need to collaborate with residents and the municipalities in order to be successful in this program. We end up having requests from you all as residents. We ask for things such as easements in order for us to be able to place equipment to serve you all. We have junction box agreements. Those are specific to each individual home. It allows us to place certain equipment on the home itself to convert your home from overhead to underground service. Some of the requests we have from the municipalities are permit approvals for right-of-way work when we need to underground the lines. And typically we use directional boring for our primary cable. Our locates to find what facilities are already in the ground to avoid, damages to those and outages to what you might already have that's underground. And then potential special use easements in the event of some type of situation that calls for something a little different than just a normal easement in your front of your home, your property. So SSUP is part of FPL's Storm Protection Plan, and as such, all costs for the program are cost recoverable, and there's no upfront cost for customers. So a lot of folks say, hey, well, how much does this cost me to do this? Do I have to pay out of pocket? There's your answer. You don't have to pay out of pocket. This is something that's recoverable as a result of the Storm Protection Plan. So this gives you here kind of an oversight of what it looks like before, where you've got power lines that are in the rear, they're overhead, maybe along the side of your home, they're overhead, and you can see where we have to cut trees out to make sure that they stay out of the lines to reduce the outages and things that you may experience. And you don't have as many things that are coming to the home visibly overhead and going back and forth. To the right shows you that conversion. So instead of an overhead transformer, the can that you see up on the pole here, you actually would have a pad-mounted transformer, which is the green box that sits down on the ground, and everything goes underground from there. So directional boring, that is the means that we tend to use in order to get the power lines underground. We put the conduit underground, pull the wire through the conduit, and it goes from point A to point B. This minimizes disruptions to properties. So you don't tend to see a lot of what we call trenches, where we're coming through and digging, whether they're narrow or large, disruptions to your property and then having to backfill those. We try to do as much as we can with the directional boring so that you don't see a lot of that. But there are sometimes some things, as you can see, we have some pits that we may need to excavate on occasion to place some of our equipment. But again, directional boring is one of the best ways for us to minimize the disruptions to their properties. So earlier I mentioned two things. I mentioned easements and junction box agreements. These are just some examples of what those documents look like. These usually are presented to you during our outreach phase. And the folks, they come out, they speak to you again, they give you a description of what these documents are, what the purpose of those documents are, and what it would mean for FPL if you were to sign these documents. So in this day and age, we know we tend to see a lot of things like fraud and that type of thing. Here's a way to help you identify who an actual FPL employee is, especially from our outreach team. They should have an FPL issued badge. They should be wearing SSUP specific attire. Typically, when you see us, a lot of us, we have on the blue shirts. They may have on a FPL baseball cap or hard hat. They may have on a bright colored vest, and it should have something related to FPL on it. And then they tend to have an iPad in which they're taking their notes and that sort of thing. If for some reason someone comes to your home, says they're from FPL, please ask to see the badge, etc. If you don't see any of these things, then I would suggest that you take a moment and call someone just to verify whether or not an actual FPL employee should be at your home. All right, so in the event that there is some disruption to your property, FPL pledges to restore each property to its pre-existing condition. It doesn't necessarily happen immediately after we have walked away from that property that same day or within a couple of days, but usually by the time the whole project is complete, then we have come back and we've done restoration to your property. And that is at our expense. And these are just some examples of what things would look like previously, prior to the installation of a pad mount transformer, and then what it looks like after we've come back and installed it and done the restoration. All right, so in the years 2022 up through 2024, we've already done some work in the city. These are some examples here shaded in the purple. These are some of the areas that we've already done some of the work. You can see this is actually around Northeast 6th Avenue. So we've done some work around Northeast 147th Street. Yep. And down further, all the way over to North, what is that? Thank you. 121st. 141st, I'm sorry. And all the way over here, you see on the right-hand side, this is a little more on your western part of the territory, Northwest 17th Avenue and 126th Street, roughly. And there's a few more areas. And here's some other areas where we've gone all the way over to I-95 on the right-hand side here from Northwest 127th Street up to 143rd. And then a few pockets on the left where we've also done some additional work in the city. Now what you see here in red, these are the areas that we are currently working in construction. We go from around 126th Street, Northwest that is, and down to 119th and over to around Northeast 2nd Avenue. So this is all stuff that's planned to be worked this year and things that we have coming up in the very near future. So that is a general overview of the Storm Secure Underground program, what you should see, what you should expect from FPL and our team. And at this point, I guess we can open it up for any questions, and I'll have the teammates, if you would, team members, come up and you can assist.
Questions?
My question is, okay, we haven't really since Andrew, long time ago, where it did some massive damage all around the area. These underground, how safe are they? Eventually, because we're so close to the canals, to the ocean, when it comes to flooding, I mean, we're over the houses and stuff like that, is that going to help out just because it's underground? How are you going to get it that if it's flooded that high up? We haven't seen it yet, but eventually it's going to happen sooner or later.
Yes,
because
sir.
we live near the water. Mm-hmm. But when it starts coming like that, are you going to be able to be by being underground? Is that going to help us or hurt us even more?
So if the water gets to be as high as the homes, naturally, there's nothing any of us can do, right? We'd have to give it an opportunity to go away until we can actually access the facilities. Same if it was overhead, for that matter. We wouldn't be able to do anything with the overhead if the water was that high. But during our construction, right, if there are areas that we believe are prone to normal flooding, then we actually have things in place where we can raise the level of the transformers that we're setting to try to keep from getting, exposed to too much water and then possibly having an issue. However, again, if the water is that high, is it possible you'll lose power? Sure. But we would have to do what's necessary to allow that water to recede before we can safely actually restore.
And how long does it take for the projects to be developed to all the areas you were saying that they're working on? How long does it take for each area to have the completed
So
project?
when we begin a project, the actual construction of a project usually takes maybe 3 months, give or take?
Yeah, 3 to 4.
3 to 4 months to actually do the boring and putting the pipe in the ground, pulling the cable, setting transformers, making the connections, and then converting the individual homes. Usually takes around about 3 to 4 months, per project.
Okay,
Yes.
This picture I'm looking at,
Mm-hmm.
This is what's going to be on our property.
Which one? Which one? This one here?
That one, yes. FPL will install that on our property.
Yes.
What compensation do they give the residents, the owners FPNL is a big money making, don't have no competition in the state of Florida. And you're coming onto my property to install this equipment at no cost, nothing to me. When I have to pay for it in the next year or two, you're gonna come behind and tell me, oh, we need an increase in property, in light bill? Y'all should be compensating residents if you're gonna put this equipment on resident property. Because right now I call FPNL to come out, and they came out from July 2nd to cut a tree from the line. I had to pay somebody privately to do it. The phone number that they put on the card, they don't answer the phone. They don't answer the phone. My light pole, 6 months ago, was on fire. A wooden pole. They didn't fix it. Every year, once a year, I have my transformer go out. And you're telling me you're coming to put it? They will not put that on my property unless FPL is not going to pay me every month a fee to put this on my property. Okay?
I can help you. I can help you with the last part and the first part. The last part, what you're saying about the poll, I could get your information and give it to me, and I'll talk to the service center so they can investigate that and find out what's going on. Now, on the second part regarding the transformer, we are requesting permission to put equipment on. We don't just put equipment on people's property. So we first have to come, when the engineers do the conceptual drawing and do the engineering, they go to properties and we have to ask for permission. We can't just put equipment. Now, the compensation, there's no compensation from FPL. The compensation is the benefits of the program. So what happens is, this is one of the first programs in the entire country where the utility goes from the transformer all the way to the meter, where we underground the service. So we're actually we're removing all the service lines in the rear of the homes, the service lines going to your home, that's gonna be removed, and we're undergrounding the service going to your direct meter, and that's the actual benefit, because that's at no charge, additional cost to the residents, and that's the benefit of the program.
A lot of North Miami homes have alleyways, so I guess you guys may have to put them in the alley, because that's a city property. The city has alleyway, and it belongs to the city, so put it on the city property.
Let me just add to that. So not every property will get equipment. So usually these transformers serve 4 homes, typically 4 or 6 homes. It just depends on the size of the home and the load that the home needs. So they're spread out throughout the neighborhood. So if you don't want to give us access to put the transformer, we will go to a neighbor and see. Now, the key here is that we need buy-in from everybody that needs to have a transformer, because the transformers are what makes the project viable. So if you don't want the transformer, that's fine. We're not going to ask everybody to provide access or an easement to, and that's what the documents that we have up, an easement for a transformer. Your neighbor might give it to us. But I think where the partnership comes with the city is that the benefits are so great on this project that we need the residents to want to participate in the program. And the benefit comes on the pictures that you guys saw of the storms like Hurricane Irma. So when those trees come down and they take down all these power lines, it is very hard for us to restore. We will eventually do it, but it'll take weeks. It can take months for us to come in, set new poles, set new lines. While the project being underground, you don't have these issues. You will have restoration. We will restore your power as soon as it's possible. If there's flooding when it recedes or whatnot, maybe a one-off can have an issue, but technically that's the purpose of this project. So, having said that, not everybody is required, but we would like for people or customers to participate, because I think it makes the community a lot more resilient, and it makes, the ability to have interruptions a lot less likely to have them. So it's really, that's where the partnership comes, with the city officials and the mayor, because they advocate for these projects so that you, the customer, has less service interruptions. So I don't know if that adds. Yep.
Yes. Hi. Good morning. Good afternoon. There's a station, electric station on 14th Avenue, and 14th Avenue and 123rd. next to the train tracks. It's been expanded. I don't know if you can recall where it is, but and I know it's not connected to the underground. I mean, the project you're talking about. But I was wondering if when you finish with that, if that could be have trees and that make it look beautiful. You know,
Is it a substation? Is it?
I think
it's a huge station. I don't know if it's sub.
We,
but-
we can take that back and we can definitely add, let our folks know. We technically do hedges, we do, we try to make it as pretty as possible. Then again, it's a substation, so it's very hard to beautify it, right?
Yeah, right now they're putting like there's like I don't know if it's cement walls right now.
Right.
And it's being extended.
Okay.
So it'll be nice.
Yeah, I'll take the address now after the meeting, and I will take it to our team.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. I have the same concerns that Virginia has concerning having that sort of thing on your property. I have a transformer, and for the past 40 years, I have had my transformer catch fire, blow out. I mean, every little wind that passes, it knocks it out. I also have a complaint because I have 2 poles in my yard on either side, and I have a third one that's derelict, and I've asked FPL to come out and remove it. They come, they take a look, and that's it. Now, you're asking me to trust you guys to put this thing, this monstrosity on my property when I can't get you to come and do the basic. Now, they do respond to when the power goes out. They do respond in a timely fashion. So I have no complaint about that. It's just that getting them to do certain things, they're not following through. This is a big project that you're asking us to collaborate with you. So I just would like, wait a minute. I would just like to know, when are they going to, follow up with the residents who have already made requests to have certain things done on the property? When we have that smooth transition and continuing communication, then we can say, oh, yeah, you guys have been spot on. Yeah, I might, but I'm not going to put one of those things on and I have a transformer, and that's enough for me.
So, as far as your concerns with the polls, a lot of these issues. So let me preface this first by saying, so the program that we're discussing, it is a specific special program, right? We are not part of the day-to-day team that does the work that you're referring to. However, we do have communication with them because we need their buy-in sometimes to help with some of the things that, like you mentioned, need to be addressed in order for us to be able to do our part. So if you were to provide us your address, we will gladly go back to the local team to say, hey, this customer rose this request and concern, and she's really adamant about it and feels like she hasn't been heard. So can someone please address it? And from there, hopefully they would address what you're asking in a reasonable way and timely manner. I will say, from someone who at one point has been part of that, there are a lot of different parts to why a pole may be left there, multiple poles, et cetera. None of it is really good, I'll tell you, honestly. It doesn't look good to you as the resident, but there are things sometimes that have to do with other utilities and things like that that may need to get off. But again, we will definitely reach out to these folks to say, hey, whatever the concern is, someone needs to communicate with you about what that issue is.
The seriousness of it is that the pole is now leaning and considerably, and it's also leaning on a wire, which I'm not sure if it's a cable line or telephone line, but it's bringing the line down at the same time, and now a lot of foliage is on it. So when I try to go in there to address the vines and stuff, I'm concerned that I may go clip something in the wrong place at the wrong time, and then that's going to be a dangerous situation. And the person I spoke to, I said to her, I said, so if that tree falls on me, who's going to pay for my damages?
Understood.
And that didn't do anything.
So like I said, please make sure before we leave that you give us your address so that we can address that and go to the local service area for that situation. One other thing I do want to mention, though, is us installing the underground and the pad-mounted, the poles eventually go away. So that will help with some of that problem in the future. And just so everyone understands, when it comes to asking for us to be able to put those pieces of equipment on your property, we do go to, as Ada said, we go to, each first person, depending on what the engineering possible design is, et cetera. And then from there, when we do request it, we try to minimize the amount of space simply to accommodate that piece of equipment, and we try to do it in a way that it's not just sitting right in the middle of your yard per se, and that type of thing.
Good afternoon. Some of the questions that I'm going to ask, they also ask, but I have a huge yard, and the FPL cable goes from one side all across my house. I've been waiting for this program for years, because every time I asked, they say I had to do it myself, and that was a lot of money. How do I know when it's going to be in my area? Because I see parts marked, but it's close to my area, but it's not in my area. That was one of the questions. I also have a pole inside of my yard. Kind of all also call, they look at it and say it's okay, should be okay. You say eventually will be removed, but it also Comcast and AT&T, everything is in that pole, and everything is inside of my house. So sometimes I see people jumping or going through the lines because of that pole. That was one question. The other one is the huge transformer. It will replace the pole eventually, you say, and it will be inside of my yard. They won't do it across the yard, correct? It will be through the side. Eventually, if one day I want to have a pool, it won't go in. That was okay. So they will design the way, because my yard is huge. And I couldn't even, when my kids were younger, I couldn't even put a bounce house because the cable goes across the patio.
So, I'm sorry, Art. So typically what I've tried to do with this program is put the facilities in the front of the yard. So that eliminates a lot of the issue that you have with going across your pool, et cetera. And we try to go closer to, like I said, the front, maybe a corner of the yard, and then the wire.
Corner could be, but not in front, because we don't have an alley.
The corners of the property.
Oh, okay,
yes.
got it.
And then we find a path that's reasonable to go over towards your meter.
So there's no alley. All that area, there's no alley. So you have to.
Whenever they run cable, they usually go along the property line. They do not cross the property. They don't go under a house. They don't go diagonally. So whenever they place the equipment, like Greg was saying, they're gonna try to put it in the very corner of each property, not in the front. And when they're running the cables, it's along the property lines, and they try to go and meet wherever the meter's at, and go to where the meter's at. But they do not cross,
One more
across the property. And I'll get your address, and also I'll get, with the concerns about the poles, I'll gather your addresses, I'll get the information, and I'll try to assist you, refer.
My last question is about, I also called for the trees to be trimmed.
Okay.
They say I had to do it myself, and I tried to do it. I did the best, but I was so afraid because of the cable.
I'll get your address now, and I'll go to the service center and talk to them about it, and try to help you with that. Yeah, we gotta be careful with that also.
Yeah.
We don't want you doing that, so please, well.
Hi, I think you're going to get a lot of addresses after this. So I hope you stick around. So I have just a couple of questions. One just addresses what you were just talking about. If you're taking down all these poles, the poles also have the AT&T fiber on it. So what's going to happen to my fiber optic that AT&T did a terrible job running through the backyards if you're taking down the poles?
So we don't remove the poles until those folks would be off of them, or they would be responsible for removing the poles. But there's a notification process that we have.
Okay.
As we do our part, then they're notified so they can in turn do their part, so on and so forth.
Okay. So will FP&L be responsible for the cable from the street to the house? Do you take responsibility?
What?
Like, are you going to be taking responsibility for hooking up, and if anything happens, you will take responsibility?
Yeah. Yes, we are installing the wire from the transformer or junction box
Right.
/ handhole
Okay.
to the actual meter.
And you
That
take
is
responsibility for that?
That is our wire. We are doing the connections, et
Okay.
cetera.
Okay. I've been following chats on like Nextdoor, so different communities that have had this done. These are their complaints. FPL comes and tears up their swale and their property, and then they don't come back and fix it at all, is the problem people are having. People are complaining a lot on Nextdoor about that.
Were they specific on our program or in general? Because
No, it's FP&L. It's
well,
FP&L.
like in our program, and like what Greg was specific to is our project, when it goes into construction, it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So we work
Right.
on each property, we work in our swales, we work in our right of way, and we restore at that point. Like if they're digging a hole or they're digging a trench, they cover that for safety. But when the job is fully complete, is when they do all restoration.
Okay.
Because it makes no sense to restore something, a piece of concrete or put sod down, and then something happens, and we have to go back in, and we have to tear that up again. So
Okay.
usually, yeah, we at the very end of the job, they restore all the sites that were disturbed.
Okay. Other people say it's great, the electric being underground for obvious reasons that you stated and that we all know. But even though our electric will go out less, it's going to take longer to restore electric when it comes back because it is underground. Is that something?
So actual data has shown that there is a decrease in restoration time when the power is underground compared
Okay.
to overhead.
Okay. So, and also, so we just had a big apartment complex built across the street from private houses, and they put the underground for that apartment building right down our street. And then we were asking them, why can't you hook up our houses that are across the street? And they were just like, oh, no, we can't do that because your poles are in your backyard. But from what you're saying, they could have done it because we literally have the cables right in front of our houses underground on our street. It's Northeast 127th Street between Northeast 12th and Northeast 11th Avenue. And going down even further to Northeast 10th Avenue, and we have the cables underground, and they refused to hook up our houses because they said they couldn't. So from what I'm hearing from what you're saying is that that was not true. Is that correct?
I would say that I can't say that it is or isn't true because I don't know what that project is or what it's, how it was designed, what
It's
it's a
called the
part of.
Gardens Residence, and FPL just about a year ago put the electric right under our street. Like we have the big manholes from it. And all of our houses were never connected. So would we be fast-tracked to get those connected since we already have it on our street?
Is that new construction, ma'am?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so new construction, I don't know, and I'm not gonna speak for the city, but some cities or newer construction now, some cities obligate developers to do it. They put their facilities underground, our facilities underground. They're forced to be connected underground. It's new construction, new codes, new things, so we're trying. I think the move forward is for to put stuff underground so that it's aesthetically better pleasing, right? And it's also better reliability. So they're paying for that. When they design it and they meet with FPL, our engineers design it underground and they pay for it. So because the developer is paying for that underground connection, they would not connect you guys, or they wouldn't put residents underground because that's privately paid.
So that's something to think about in future, just talking to the people from North Miami here, when they do have these new developments, that the city should force the developer to also do this underground for the neighbors who are disrupted from the underground for their building. It's called CBE. Right? So should it be easier for you guys to hook us up because we already have the wire under, the cables are literally in front of our houses under our street?
So I know for all new development, the city does require every developer to underground their power line. Now, Do they have to do it for the neighbor next door? I don't think so. But that could be something that's maybe proffered as a community benefits moving forward for
No, I
developers
understand that.
to say,
Okay.
hey, you're on my street, you're ripping up. Maybe there's a way to connect us if possible.
Right.
Like no developer is going to outright say, hey, I'm going to
No, I had
connect.
asked. I had asked.
Okay, but I know we had that one meeting, and I don't recall it, but that
Right.
was I guess at the time when they're requesting the units during CUP and site plan, that's the time for residents to
Right.
advocate for what
Right.
community benefits
Right.
that they would like to see.
And maybe the city officials could also advocate for us too.
No, we actually can't, because that would
Okay,
be considered,
okay.
us axing
Okay.
yeah.
So just going back to FPL, because we do have that cable under our street already, that's already there. Would we get it?
So Ruth is coming around, so we just went ahead and started to compile all the complaints for you guys. So if you guys can fill out the form with your address and your concern, and Ruth from my office will be providing that to you all, and we also will be following up for you guys as well.
Hey, my name, oh, sorry.
Sorry. No, you guys, just make sure when you're filling it out, put a good contact number where they can reach you and your concerns and your address. And I do want to add your question regarding the reliability of the underground service. The reason it's going underground is like Greg was saying, is better reliability, but also one of the main reasons we're going underground is the main cause of outages is vegetation. So if your service and your lines are underground, vegetation can get to it. So you get better reliability because of that. Sorry about that. You could go ahead.
Hey, my name's Jessica Kazork. I'm Debbie's neighbor on 127th Street. I'm really excited about this program, actually. I just did a renovation in my home. I wanted to thank Art in the middle there. He already gave me his cell phone, and I appreciate you guys. I already buried my fiber optics cable, and so now my power cables, I've already got my PVC pipe and everything ready for you from my electrician. So I'm just glad to make the connections, and thanks for coming out here tonight.
Thank you.
For the restoration services, is there a point of contact for that? Who do we reach out to?
So, and when you ask that question, are you mean in reference to the
For
project
sites?
itself?
No, for sites that are disturbed at your property.
So are you part of our current project now, or?
I am. You guys have already been at my house already.
Okay, so, and they're actually done. All right, let me get your information.
Okay.
Have you tried to reach out? Have they left?
I haven't. I was waiting for this meeting, so.
Okay, perfect. I'll get your information. I'll reach out to you. And what is your concern? Is there restoration still needed to do at your house?
No, let me speak up. Well, the landscaping was this way.
Okay, the sod or anything? Okay, so we'll get your address. We'll look into it, and then we'll see what needs to get done, and we'll assist you with that. No problem. Thank you.
Hello, I have a question. I noticed that my area was pretty much everything around us is done, but we are like a little black hole as always. I also, in the last few years, you guys put those high electric feeder line on my street. There was never I never had any communication related to that. So I'd like to know, what are the dangers of those high poles on my line? I see in here it's called main or feeder lines. And then the second thing is, I noticed that our area is not highlighted on the forms, so on the pages. So when are you going to get to those other areas?
So as far as the power lines, the feeder lines, if someone just recently came and installed, new poles, et cetera, on the street there, that is probably part of what is known as a feeder hardening project, and that's to help to improve the general neighborhood as a whole. And then if you are fed directly from the actual feeder itself, our program, we don't convert the homes that are part of the feeder, because that's already a good, strong reliability service. In addition to that, when the feeders get restored, you guys would get restored typically when there's overhead power versus something else. The feeders are one of the first things that we restore. So you guys would get power first if you're directly fed on the feeder. However, if you're not directly fed from the feeder, then we would have to see is your area part of one of the projects that we already have in place, or is it something that's scheduled to be next year? So we would need your address to be able to tell you that, because I couldn't tell you just off the top of the head right now to see when it's scheduled.
But what's the danger to those feeder line passing through the street?
So the danger is, I would say there, I guess the question is, when you ask what is the danger, what are you referencing? Because
Like radiation or anything to do with the poles?
so we actually have folks that come and provide EMF related.
Exactly, those poles. Exactly, I've heard that those poles are cancer causing, and we just, of course, we are the dump site for everything, so it just, we didn't even know it was going to be on our street.
With EMF, with things already in your house.
Right, then there are with the poles.
Cell phones, Wi-Fi in your house.
Yes.
You have a lot more exposure.
You have a lot more exposure from that than you do from the power lines.
And if it's buried, you get even less.
But if you do have a concern, you will go to the FPL website, and there's a link for EMF, and it'll give you more information there. Also, within that link, if you could request, they could come out and do a test for your home in the immediate area regarding EMF.
Okay, because we were out of power only about a week ago. I guess something on one of those poles blew up. I could hear a transformer or something because I was able to hear the explosion from inside my house. Everybody ran out to see what was going on. So obviously it does go down, and there were no storms.
So just for the record, everybody has different issues, and we don't have all your addresses or your history. So, what we're trying to say is we're here to speak about this project specifically, but we're more than happy to take all the concerns, and then we can have the team look, because there's a history for all your addresses. So we'll go back, we'll look, what are the causes of the outages you've had, the explosion, the vegetation, everything that you have, and then we can address it one by one individually, because it's hard. We don't have information now on those specific issues. So if you do have any concern whatsoever, put it on that paper, and we'll make sure that somebody gets back to you. And if not, I'm sure the councilwoman will make us responsible. So.
Good evening. My question is, let's say you have, you're in a block and you're doing new construction and you would like the stormwater, this program. If you guys are not yet going into that area, what would happen then? Can the customer request it since it's a new construction, or no? You'll have to wait.
Yeah, this is not a on-demand type of request, and I say that sincerely because it's something that is based on the actual performance of the power lines in the area, historical data, and things of that sort, like I mentioned here.
Got you. My other question, I know you guys provided the map. Do you guys have that in a GIS format if somebody wanted to search up a specific address? Or just,
so.
No? Okay. And my last question is, let's say, some people have concerns of putting the thing on, the transformer on their property. If you have an entire block who all refuses it, do you guys just skip that block since no one agrees? Wow. So, no, then they would go in the house that agrees.
It depends.
'Cause I wouldn't be surprised, like my neighbors.
We will.
Yeah. So are they just out of luck, or?
All right, this is a joint effort between FPL and our customers. If we don't get the easements we need to make the project viable, and we try and nobody gives us what we need, we have to walk away and move on.
Wow.
Talk to your neighbors.
All right, so that touches base. I was going to ask about that, the transformer box. So back in California, when I lived there, transformer boxes are usually out on the main street on a corner, and then they run from there. So I could tell you personally, I don't want one of those in my yard. So, I mean, is it going to go in each yard? How are you laying out that system?
So that's something that our engineers, they take a look to see how many homes need to be fed, et cetera, what the sizes of the homes are, a lot of different factors, and then they determine how many transformers are needed to accommodate that block, right? and then they strategically place it to allow for the least amount of voltage drop based on distance and things of that sort.
Yeah, I understand that. So you don't know, it's going to be based on your load requirement for each block.
Correct.
And do you have that already, or?
So we get that information when a project is actually in line to be worked, when we're scheduled to actually start working on that project. So as mentioned before, it's a two-year cycle, right? So this year, we would say we'd have people that are starting to make calls and pound the pavement for work that we plan on starting next year or the beginning of the year after that.
And so in my block, they went ahead and laid conduit underground. Is that part of the project, or is that something else?
We would need your address to find out what your address is and if we're part of one of our projects.
They laid this conduit, left it up as trip hazards, and then they half-assed the repair work. I mean, it's all crooked. I mean, if that's the way you guys are going to finish it, I'm not feeling very good about what it's going to look like at the end.
Again, we would need your address to see if it's actually part of our project or something different.
Do you need anything?
Thank you.
Good evening. My problem is that in my area, I am in a corner lot. You guys, when you install those big box, first of all, I see the big box in the middle of the backyard. So where my grandchildren going to be playing when you put the box in the middle of the yard? And second of all is that if I'm not home, nobody home, how you going to place these boards with my permission or without of my permission? How it's going to be? The lady was talking about I got 2 poles in my backyard already. They put one in front on the corner lots. So I really don't understand how you going to put the box if nobody at the house. Are you going to leave a note, or when people come to call you back?
So to the first part, the transformers, as we mentioned before, we are looking to putting everything in the front of the yard, if at all possible, and it's pretty much almost always possible. So that's first. I'm not sure what you may be referring to has been put in your yard previously, but for our program, we put things in the front. And as far as entering the yard, there's always communication that we do. We do communication ahead of schedule to let you know we'll be in the area around a certain time. And if you have some type of need to have your property locked up and you need specific allowance for you to be there, then we coordinate that.
So third question is that this box cannot be designed and smallest. Why has to be so big?
You want to address that?
Yes.
Thank you.
No, that's just how they're manufactured. We don't manufacture the transformers. When we do customer outreach, our customer outreach specialists are trained to clearly inform you all of what the project entails, including showing you an augmented reality picture of your property with our transformer imposed on it so you can visualize what it's going to look like. And we even ask you to sign that and say, look, this is what it's going to look like. Do you want it or not? You can say no, and we're going to move on to your neighbors. So the location, we visualize where it's going to be. We'll ask you questions, make sure you're okay with it. And, everybody can say yes and everybody can say no. It's up to you.
So I just want to add to that also. When they go out and do outreach, before they come to your home, you're going to have multiple points of contact. You're going to receive a letter from FPL. You're going to receive a folder through mail also. You're going to probably receive some communications, maybe a phone call. So before they come to your home to talk to you, you're going to know that the program is coming out there. That's number one, so you can have an idea. They're not just going to show up to your house. Secondly, the reason, like Greg said earlier, one of the main 2 reasons of this program is, one, vegetation is what causes the outages, so better reliability. Second, it's easier access to our linemen and to our FPL employees to gain access to the equipment. So basically, think of it this way. So right now, if you got all your equipment in the rear of your house, with vegetation, there's a transformer, there's cables back there. Everything is going to be moved to the front, underground. So the transformers are going to be in the front, corners of the property. All the cables are going to be run underground. So everything's going to be front of it. So when there is an issue, and I can tell you right now from experience, we've been doing this program for 8 years, everything is brand new. So if we really need to go out there, it's because something happened. Because most likely when this program gets done in your area, you're probably not going to see FPL to go out there to service a transformer or anything unless something specifically happened on that property.
Thank you.
Let me just add a couple of things. So how many of you have fences in your home? A lot, right? So that is exactly the issue that we are trying to eliminate. How many times is there an outage and we try to access that home? We have to go think about it. We have to roll in a truck. These guys get off to fix what the issue is in the rear of. There's fences, people put locks on them, there's dogs in the backyard. There's all kinds of obstacles in the way for these guys to restore the power. And maybe some of you say, well, I don't have that. But there's a lot. We have 5.8, a little bit more than that, customers. And I can guarantee you, I would say a lot of those customers have all these issues. So the purpose of putting these boxes is not to upset you or anything. The reason why we're putting them in the front, and they're going to go, and when we talk about yard, it's not your yard. When we say yard means property. It's going to be in the front of your property, right at the edge of the property line. So it's not going to be in the middle. It's going to be in a corner. I think we had some examples here. The reason for that is because they're green boxes, like you guys saw, with a number on there. So when there's an outage and you call and you say, I have no power, we immediately know which transformer's affected. The trucks roll in, they look at that box because it's not covered by anything, by vegetation, by a fence, by anything. They roll in, they look at identify the transformer and fix the problem. So the idea is to make it easier so you have less outage time, so that we restore your power quicker. So that's just what we want to clarify. We're bringing it to the front so that it's easy to identify, easy to restore. We don't have to bother you. We don't have to access your yard, ask for permission if you're not home, and it just delays the time that you're out of power.
Thank you for that. Well, as a North Miami resident, I really do appreciate this program. I think it's going to be something that's super beneficial, as you're mentioning, especially with the wait times and having power restored, so I appreciate it. I'm actually here on behalf of the City of North Miami Beach because we're looking to do a similar informational session with our residents. But one of the questions I had, and just curious, is whether or not FPL has been in communication with the telecom companies so that instead of, an existing pole and the other wires that remain, maybe they can also underground or just have those poles removed so that the program is more efficient, I think, when it comes to aesthetics.
So we've recently, I've recently dealt with this issue actually with a different municipality. So once we have a project identified, it is my understanding, and these folks here can keep me true, right? Can keep me real. We identify the communications, the other utilities, right? AT&T, whatever, Comcast. We tell them we're going to be moving forward on these projects, right? And then they have the opportunity to look and see if they want to underground or not. They're not obligated. They're regulated completely different than we are. It's up to them if they want to do it or not, but we are independent. So we underground and we move forward with the projects, whether they want to do it or not, but we give them the courtesy of notifying them so that they know what areas we're working on. We really have no control over the other utilities, so it's really up to them. You would need to take it up with their representatives for those other utilities.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi. I'm from North Miami Beach, and I'm here to see what you guys are encountering. Is there a way that we could find out where the FP&L plans are next? Because I happen to live in an area where I had no power for 6 weeks during the last hurricane. And our poles are in horrible shape. They're falling over. Half the wires are jerry-rigged to palm trees. They're not even tied to the poles. They're actually on our palm trees. The poles are falling down. We had a transformer catch fire, and we lose power, I think, at least once every 2 weeks. So I'm curious where we can, when, there was a plan, I guess, to replace 30 of the lines or the poles in our area in Eastern Shores. But why replace these poles that are falling down if you're going to bury them shortly? Doesn't make sense. So how can we find out what the plans are? And I'm telling you, North Miami, you are so lucky that you are getting your lines buried, because what happens to these power lines in time is they start to fall over, they start to splinter. FPL ties the lines to trees and rigs them, jerry-rigs them in some poor fashion. And so you may not like initially what is going on, but I guarantee you will be happy with the end result, because when I didn't have power for 6 weeks, I went and stayed with my sister who had buried lines.
So again, it's important, please put your name and information on that sheet, and we will make sure that we'll get back to you on that. Just to address the issue of replacing the poles, if the poles are in that bad condition, we will replace them if you're not anywhere near the timeline for undergrounding. So we will let you know if you're in the near future. If not, obviously FPL will go out, or another division of our company will go out and look at the poles and see in what condition they are. So.
Hello. So two things. So are there areas outside of the boundaries outlined that you guys will determine projects? If so, how will you determine what areas, are viable? And then two, can you talk a little bit about the process here, throughout the customer outreach, for determining these projects to happen? Is there a voting, a consensus, or what could hold it up, or what could let it go through, or something like that?
So the first part of that question is, we would need to know what your address is to see if you are scheduled to be in the near future, meaning next year, really, possibly the year after, but mostly next year, if you're part of an upcoming program for us to come in and actually work with your service. Excuse me. It's determined by the ongoing performance, historical data, basically, how your lines, the area, the main lines, the service lines, the laterals, how well that stuff performs in day to day, like a blue sky, regular, gray sky rather, afternoon storm, as well as during hurricanes. And then that's all across the entire state. And then things get ranked from there based on those performances, number of outages, extent of outages, when they did happen, so on and so forth. So that's how the projects end up coming into fruition as far as selecting which area, gets serviced. And then you asked about the things that could hold up a project and from going actually, through construction. I could tell you there's a multitude of things that can happen, one of which we continue to talk about here, and that is the actual participation from the residents. Are we getting enough participation to actually make the project viable? Do we have the buy-in from the residents, from the city, from whoever we need in order to be able to come out, provide a layout, install the necessary equipment, and do this particular project? There's also a lot of other things that we could be here forever, honestly, for me to say what could hold it up. But in general, we do have processes in place to try to work through whatever those issues are to the best of our ability. I mean, it starts with our outreach team, and then we have other folks that can get involved, and depending on what the level of the problem is, we can go as high as we need to go on both sides to try to remedy the problem. But if it gets to a point where the project's not viable for us to actually go through the efforts of installing, then, as we mentioned before, we would have to take a step back and decide whether or not we can even do the project and possibly walk away.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sandra. I'm living for North Miami. And my question, I'm sorry. So I'm so sorry. Yes. But I know my question, I don't see nobody say that, but I'm commenting me about the bill. The light bill is too high because I don't have any business in my house. I don't have a restaurant. I come back and there are 5 people in the house. The bill is coming $600, $700. I don't know why. What reason?
I could address that for you. Like Greg says, we're specific to the program here, but if you could get her information, because we do have a program where somebody can actually go out to your house to evaluate the equipment in your home to see what the usage is at your home and check the meter and see what could be causing your bill to be high. So just on the list, just make sure you put all the information, and then I'll refer that to the correct department so they could contact you. Yes, and just to add to that, they'll go to your home at no charge for that.
Okay. I have a question. So I live in a flood zone area on the east side of North Miami, so I don't think we'll be getting one of these. I don't think we'll be part of the program, right?
No, that's not necessarily true. When we are designing a project, we do study the FEMA flood maps, and if we determine it's a high-risk area, we do have elevated concrete pads. The standard one is 6 inches. We have one that's 16 inches, and we have another one that's 24 inches. So
That's good to know.
So yes, we have options.
Yeah, because we're in a zone where we're supposed to evacuate every time it's a hurricane. It's a red zone.
Okay, I just wanted to say that although some of us are addressing other areas and concerns with FPL, I speak only for myself. I'm not opposed to the underground wiring. What I am concerned about is the efficiency and the accountability once these things are put into place. It all sounds really nice and encouraging and beautiful, but from the lack of response to certain areas, not everything, as I mentioned before, the response time to what, and since the transformer is on my property, I have never delayed access to any of the guys. I'm actually waiting up with my flashlight to let them in, okay? Because I want my electricity on. And they email me and says, this is the time frame. They call me, they text me. So I've never had an issue. In the 41 years I've lived in North Miami, at that same residence, had an issue where FPL could not gain access to my property. I'm out there, we want some water, y'all had dinner, I want my electricity back on, so I'm gonna do what is best. My concern too, I think some people are gonna have is property values. Having this item in front of their properties, even though it's to the side and, put some, I'm just thinking folks are wondering, is it going to affect my property value when I try to sell? As opposed to the neighbor who doesn't have any imperfections on their property. I have the transformer on my property, so more than likely everybody's going to be looking at me. Well, she's had the transformer for 41 years. Why can't she have the box? So I know 7 households are connected to my transformer. I know my neighbors. When I lights are out, I know exactly who else is out. Okay? I look across the street and people have lights and say, oops, it's us. It's only us. So I am just concerned about those little things. I'm not trying to beat up on anybody here. I'm just letting you know that people are frustrated because of other issues connected with FPL. And unfortunately, you guys are the face of FPL for the moment. You're in the spotlight. But it's not that we're, speaking for myself, it's not that I'm opposed to the underground. I just want to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted.
I have a question. When you say recoverable costs, who's recovering those costs?
All of us actually. It's something that gets worked through, again, the Public Service Commission.
So the customer at no point is going to see an uptick in their bill. Like
not specific to this project. No.
Okay. There was another question.
We're all paying for the bill. If you look at your bill, there is a charge for the SPP, but we're all paying for it now, and that's what funds this program.
I apologize if I missed it. Do you guys have warranties on the transformers? I think someone mentioned that theirs blew up. Obviously, you'd go out and replace it, but after a certain time frame, are they automatically changed or upgraded?
So just the way things are done now, we base that on the actual how well they've been or are working, how long it's been up, if it's actually deteriorating to the point that it presents some type of either safety hazard or some type of actual functional hazard, and then we would go out and we would do replacements. But there is an actual ongoing, and it's totally separate from this program. There's an ongoing transformer inspection program that happens, and again, based on historical data, then those things will get scheduled to be inspected.
All righty, so let's give a round of applause to the FPL team that was here today. I remember during Irma, I was upstairs sleeping in the city manager's office because we had to camp here when I worked here, and North Miami experienced 99% blackout. So that means almost every single customer in North Miami experienced a blackout, and the vegetation was on every single street. And it took us weeks. I was without power for 2 weeks. Neighbors was without power for weeks. So, when I heard about this program, I said, okay, let's make sure that more residents are aware, because God forbid, we know we haven't had another Irma, but God forbid another storm were to come. Let's not say it correct. It didn't even take a storm. We had torrential rain, and there were trees going down in the city of North Miami. And all right, look, I'm knocking, I'm praying, I'm hoping, because like I said, 2017 was a very devastating year for us in North Miami in terms of just restoring service. We were hounding you guys. Like, we had residents waiting up until 6 weeks to be restored. And, folks who had their powers underground, they were off and then they were on. And so I just want to thank you all for coming here today. Thank you all for participating. Tell a neighbor. It'll be on Nomi TV and on YouTube. And again, thank you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I wish you guys would give it. Yeah, so it's kind of weird, and